And
All right.
but my goal is for us not to screw up because and whatever you all say is what you say.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't matter. It's strictly how you feel about it anyway.
Okay.
Now me on the other hand, I need to be straight.
Do you guys feel comfortable with me going on live?
Yeah, girl. Hey, that's up to her.
Y'all screw
I'm
up.
good.
I
No,
can
none of this is scripted. I can tell you that. This is not scripted at
Okay.
all.
We're ready. Whenever you are.
Hi, I'm Dianne Hart, and today is Wednesday. We're going to be talking about some wonderful young women who've experienced a traumatic disease in their lifetime. This is the opening statement, and we're going to be talking about breast cancer. As you know, for the past 4 weeks, we've discussed breast cancer. And we had one man to come on, Mr. Lance Stevens, to talk about men having breast cancer. But today will be our last wrap up for the month of October as we talk to some brave women who have dealt with breast cancer. And as you can see, they are with us live, well, and healthy. And they're going to kind of tell us about their story and what it was like for them as they experienced breast cancer. So before we begin the show, we're going to actually ask each one of them to introduce themselves to us so that then you will know who we're talking to. We're going to start with Dr. Vondelin Wright, who actually assembled this audacious group of women together to have this conversation, this real conversation. So, Doctor?
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Vondelin Wright. I am a breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2021. We're also in my building. This is the Well, where we do have a variety of healthcare. We help with a variety of healthcare needs.
Hi, my name is Tamisha Hawkins, and I'm also a breast cancer survivor, diagnosed in 2006, and I was invited here, and I'm glad to be here today.
Hi, my name is Kim Graves. I was diagnosed in 2014 as a triple negative breast cancer patient, and right now I'm thriving, and I want to thank Dr. Vondelin Wright for inviting me here, so thank you.
My name is Gloria Young. I was diagnosed in October of 2022. I was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, which is very aggressive, and it was found very early, stage 1, with no lymph nodes involved, and I am a survivor.
Listen, and the reason you hear us talk about the type of cancer, triple negative breast cancer is a deadly disease that progresses so much faster than any other form of breast cancer. So when you hear the ladies talk about triple negative, that is a cancer that takes us out so much faster than any other form of breast cancer. So I'm going to ask the ladies to just kind of give you an idea of what it was like when you found it, Gloria.
I had a mammogram done early in 2022, and 6 months later, it was time for me to have an MRI, and the MRI is what found the breast cancer. The mammogram didn't. And I also had an ultrasound done and a mammogram done the same day as the MRI, and the mammogram still did not show the breast cancer. But it was a stage 1, was very early. I received chemo from November, from November to April of this year, and I had a double mastectomy done in June. So I'm progressing very well, and I just thank God that I am cancer free.
I know that's right. Kim,
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about your battle and how you survived it.
Yes, well, actually, I was having issues and pain in my breast, and I thought that it was just part of my cycle coming on.
Right.
And I went to go see my gynecologist, and I posed a concern. They indicated that I was okay, and I should just don't worry about it. Take Tylenol, I should be fine. But I know my body,
Right.
and I was an advocate for myself, and I pressed for them to give me a prescription to go get a mammogram done. Did that, and while I was at the facility getting the mammogram done, they asked to do an ultrasound. They said they thought they saw something that was a little suspicious. So fast forward, there was a radiologist there, which he was an African American brother, He called me into his office and he said, listen, I'm not a doctor, but I can tell you based on what I see and for me to help another sister out, I want you to know that you may have breast cancer. He said, but I can't give you a direct answer because you haven't had a biopsy. He said, but I'm just letting you know, and if in fact if it is, that you have been diagnosed, that you have an early stage of it. Because I had probably like 4 little calcifications, little dots. And sure enough, I went to get a biopsy and I was diagnosed as being positive. So the journey was great. I had stage 1 breast cancer and I went through 4 rounds of chemo, radiation. It was dramatic. Lost hair, had 3rd-degree burn under my boob area from the radiation. And my first go around, I did a lumpectomy, and they thought they saw I had another scare a few years later after I was diagnosed. And I just told my provider, let's just take them off. So I went through the process of getting a double mastectomy, followed behind reconstruction, and I'm grateful that I did.
And here you are today.
Cancer free.
Tanisha,
Yes.
let's talk a little bit about your journey.
My journey started at the tender age of 27.
Wow.
I actually found the lump myself. There's those little hangers that you put in your shower. You can get them from your doctor's office.
Right.
And years before, I had picked one up. Just today, I understand why, but at that time, I didn't.
Right.
So I had one in my shower, and years before the diagnosis, I had started doing my self-breast examinations. And one day I felt the lump. I was having sharp pains. I knew nothing about cancer. Didn't have anyone in my family, as far as we know, had breast cancer. Didn't know anything about it. Again, I was very young. I was 27. So I didn't know what to expect. Went to an annual checkup, and I remember the doctor was finished with me, and then I was like, oh yeah, there's a lump or something here that's been hurting. So she laid me back down and she checked it. She said, well, I don't know, I'll send you to get it checked out. So she sent me to have the ultrasound and the mammogram, and just fast forward a bit, it was breast cancer. So I went through the biopsy to determine, and then surgery. I had just a single mammogram, mastectomy initially. Then I went through chemotherapy. I went through 1.5 years of chemotherapy. I was diagnosed with triple positive breast cancer, which is also a very rare and aggressive cancer from what I've been told. So my oncologist wanted to attack it aggressively. So that is why I had 1.5 years of chemotherapy. During the chemotherapy, I had to still go in and do radiation. So my story is a little similar to theirs as well. After the radiation, chemotherapy, I wasn't able to go and do the reconstruction right then because my doctor just didn't want to suggest it due to the diagnosis. So later I did go ahead and have reconstruction done. In the midst of the journey, it was rough. I ended up having a stroke. I also went into cardiac arrest. And these are 2 separate incidents.
So did they believe that had anything to do with it because of the amount of chemo that they may have been giving you and the radiation that you had taken? Did they believe that had anything at all to do with your stroke and your heart attack?
The stroke, they did after the test, when they determined I had a stroke. It was during the chemotherapy process. They said it was a blood clot that had pressed against my brain. When they went in to check and look for it, they couldn't find the clot. They don't know where it came from. They could just see the impression on the results on the test.
And when you were tested, what stage were you when you got your biopsy and all?
I was diagnosed with stage 2B metastatic breast cancer. And metastatic means that it did spread to quite a bit of my lymph nodes. So I had to have some of those removed as well.
And that was in 2006. So here she is. We're going to be ringing the bell tonight. And Dr. Rondalyn, let's talk a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so my journey, it started in 2021. Of course, like I always say, we were out there fighting together, that great fight of the pandemic, where everything was different. Even the way we did healthcare was different. In 2021, we were fighting, and then I felt the lump. me feeling a lump, I kind of ignored it for a while, but then I thought, like, I'm a healthcare professional, right?
Right.
And I'm always encouraging people to, if you feel something different, you do something about it. And so I couldn't dismiss it. I wanted to, I remember even doing like advertising, oh my gosh, like let's go and do your mammogram too, because I knew I was a little bit over 40 years old, but the problem was I didn't have insurance at the time.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, how do you maneuver this? Being in the healthcare world, I had friends that were like nurse practitioners, so I had one of my nurse practitioner friends write me a prescription to get a mammogram, and then that first mammogram came back that I needed further testing. I didn't think much of it. I just thought like, oh, they, I felt a lump. They probably think you need something else. My husband encouraged me to keep going and get the next test, and so I did ultimately get an ultrasound, which came back a BIRAT5, meaning that there's a 95% chance that you have breast cancer. Mm-hmm. And so from there, I still have a little bit of hope, right? Because I think one of the things that we feel is a little bit of denial. Yes. I don't know if you ladies felt that, but nobody wants to think I have cancer.
Right,
Yes.
absolutely.
At the same time, we're young and we feel good. And we have too much going on.
Right.
We're used to, like our grandmothers or great grandmothers getting things like cancer and not even telling us what's going on, right? They got these ailments and we didn't know how they passed away or what they were going through. And a lot of times they refuse things like chemotherapy. So I was in that position where I didn't want chemotherapy. I'm like, wait a minute. All I know all I knew is that you go through chemotherapy and then you die sometimes. So chemotherapy was an option that I did not want to take. It took me a while and probably too long to the point that my doctors was like, look, like either you're gonna sign some paper saying you're refusing this, or you're gonna do the chemotherapy to save your life. One of the things I was worried about is, oh my gosh, my hair, and it sounds
crown and glory, because
it sounds pretty vain.
No, it's
but when we're going through, it's just one of those things that we're used to having and used to having a little bit of control over. And so I decided to go with the chemotherapy because I had stage 2 estrogen-fed breast cancer at the time, which had already spread to my lymph nodes. When it spreads to the lymph nodes, that's like your last barrier. If it gets past your lymph nodes, that's when it really can spread and run. Yeah, it can attack the body a whole lot more. So, of course, I did, like you did, get my lymph nodes removed, a lot of them removed, and I opted for the double mastectomy as well, just because I didn't want these things, it was only my left breast at the time, but I'm like, what if it happened again?
Exactly.
Because chemotherapy is a lot. I went through blood clots, kind of similar to you. I'm still on a blood thinner right now today because of the blood clots, and I had pneumonia. Just because the chemotherapy, it suppresses everything. We wanted to suppress the cancer, right? But it suppresses everything. I felt like a 40-year-old woman in a 80-year-old body. And so we get through it, but we never forget. And so one of the things that I did was got this organization, Fight Right Foundation, to help other people maneuver through this different world, because when you're going through, nobody wants to fight cancer alone, and nobody should have to fight cancer alone. So we're here, and we're all going to stick together, and we're going to help the next person, because unfortunately, it's not going to stop with us. There's going to be someone else and someone else, but we can find some earlier detection, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's why I want us to be able to get those bills where we can start looking at cancer earlier. You were 27 years old when you got diagnosed, and you were 35 years old when you got diagnosed.
I was 61.
You were 61, but you had a scare when you were younger, and you were able to catch your cancer at stage 1 because you went 6 months earlier, and you were on a regular schedule to get.
Right, because I was also diagnosed when I was younger with fibrous cystic disease, which a lot of black women have, and now I also had dense breast. So any woman that's diagnosed with dense breast needs to definitely demand a ultrasound.
Right, as opposed to just getting The mammogram.
Yes.
Well, I can only tell you I've had that scare when I went in for my mammogram and they sent me a note and they said, well, you need to come back for an ultrasound.
Yes.
And for the days that it took me to be able to get back for that ultrasound, I was petrified. I didn't tell my family that I was going back for the ultrasound for fear that maybe I was going to be diagnosed with breast cancer. Because they were like, oh, there's something abnormal with your mammogram. So that word abnormal really just sends you into a tailspin. So that was, and when I went back to get the sonogram and then they gave me the results, I felt a lot better. But for days, and nobody understands what that's like when you get that notice that, hey, you may have something wrong. And even though you don't know what that something is.
So I want to talk on that too, because I have so many people who are feeling something and they're scared. They're scared to go to the doctor. They don't want to know what it is. And I will encourage you to get that tested, because we have so many treatments right now. If we catch it early, we can treat this thing and we can live and we can live a great life. But if we wait and we ignore things in our body, then when we catch it, then it's too late.
That's true. And then for those of us who drink a lot of coffee, they told me, well, you know, sometimes the caffeine will cause lumps. I don't care what you think it is, go to the doctor and let them determine what's really the cause. Because I was told that, well, you know, it just might be from caffeine. No, I don't need you to remind me it might be. We need definite. So for these ladies to join us this evening and talk about a difficult subject matter, you know, how did your families deal with it while you were going through? It's got to be hard for your families. So, Gloria, what was it like for your family?
Well, I have 2 daughters and a son, and my youngest daughter, when she was 9, she had cysts in her breast.
Wow.
At 9 years old, she'd have an ultrasound done on her breast. So, and at 9 years old, she started her menstrual also. But, you know, they always knew that, you know, I've always kept a check on my breast because, you know, breast cancer does run in my family, but not my mother, my siblings, like one of my mother's, her younger sister. She never gave birth to children, so I was always taught in nursing school that if you didn't give birth to children, if you didn't breastfeed, that your risk was higher.
Yep, that's what the doctor talked about on the show.
For breast cancer. So it was devastating to my children, but they, you know, they stood beside me and stuff. You know, one of my daughters, you know, texted me today this morning, and she said she really wants to see if I can do a mastectomy. Because she doesn't want to go through what I've been through.
Think about it.
Right, she doesn't want to think about it, right. But, you know, I had talked to one of the doctors on my job, and she was like, Gloria, she's just, you know, just got a lot on her right now, whatever. So just bear with it. You know, hopefully she'll change her mind later on or whatever. But, you know, but like I say, my family has stood, you know, beside me. My mother has dementia, so she didn't really understand a whole lot. But, you know, when she would see me with no hair, she'd be like, you know, what's going on? And I was like, you know.
Kim, what was it like for your family?
I would say during that period, of course, I was very young when I was diagnosed. During that time, my daughters were in their teens, little girls, and me being the only person that was diagnosed with any type of like terminal sickness in my family, it was devastating for everyone. I didn't know anything about it. I called Tamisha. I knew she went through it, and she helped me through the course of the process. And I think just overall, just everyone was just stunned about just the diagnosis. But we got through it, and they came together like soldiers, and we fought through it with no problem. So
that's wonderful. Tamisha, what was it like for your family?
If I can say this, I'm an 18-year survivor, and this subject is still very hard. So try to interrupt me.
It's okay.
It's the part about the family.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't only affect us, it does affect our family.
Absolutely.
Yes, it does.
For me, my mother had, what do you call it, the fibrosis. My mother has that. So my mother always had all these little cysts. They would cut them out if they bothered her, but they were never cancerous.
Right.
So when I was diagnosed, like I said, I was ignorant to it because I didn't know of any family, hadn't seen anything about it. I called my mom from the doctor's office, and I just blatantly said, Mom, they said I have cancer. And she lost it on the phone. So when the doctor wrapped up with me, I went straight to her house. And my mom was on the floor, and I just still see her there. She was just on the floor having a full tantrum. She was having a fit.
Yeah.
And she was blaming herself.
She couldn't believe it.
She felt it was her fault because she has this cyst, and she feels like she gave it to me. My daughter, I had one daughter at the time, she was 3. So she didn't know anything much about what was going on. My brother, sisters, everybody came in close. And I had a great support system. A lot of friends. I did lose some friends and people along the way, and I just think they were
They're
scared.
supposed to be gone though.
I know that now.
They're supposed to be
I know
gone.
that now.
Because the one thing about the Savior, He will remove them, even when you're trying to figure out, oh, that was my best friend. But they're not supposed to be with you.
That's right.
And that's why. So you have to give them no second thought. And I know a little bit about Mama with her family.
Yeah, so I was fortunate to have a great support system, but not everybody understands what cancer is. I remember my husband, when we first found out, we knew we were going to fight together, but he's always used to me being like Superwoman, right? And thinking that I could just handle everything. And so when the times that he saw me like all the way down, he had to step up, right? And he was there every step of the way. With my sons, I have 2 sons. I didn't tell them for a while. I needed to have answers before I told them because I knew that they would take it really, really hard. And everyone else, like I had so many friends and so many things, and I was able to relax and deal with cancer. And so that was another reason why Fight Right Foundation came into play, because I want a foundation that it gives people, I guess, the advantage of being able to just take care of their health for that period of time, whether it's a year or however long you got to go through this treatment, give you a better chance to fight, because some people have to fight while they're not knowing if they're going to have somewhere to stay or if their lights are going to be on. So I just thought about other people's situation, and I really am grateful to have had the support that I had.
I can only imagine what it's like in cancer and having a support system.
Yes.
I know what it's like in death to have a support system. My
Yes.
son died 3 years ago, and I had that support. It was there to kind of help me along. But when somebody says to one of you ladies, oh, I know what it's like. No, you don't. You have no idea what it's like. So sometimes you have to say that to people. And say, no, you don't really know. Because unless you've gone through, you have no idea what this fight is really like. But you all are some journey. It's a journey for real. That's what I like to call it, a journey. Listen, it's a real journey.
And it's a never-ending journey.
Right.
Never-ending. It's always something that triggers you. You would think about your history, what you went through, your past, and it's just it's a scar that would never go away. It becomes easy, but you would never erase it.
Does it frighten you if there's anything medically happening with you? Are you afraid that, oh my God, what's happening to my body? If you get sick or you don't feel good, how does it impact? Because I know it must, because it's always there with you. So either one of you ladies can talk about it first.
I would say you just have to really stand on your faith. I've had a lot of biopsies done because they've seen things along this journey. So you just really have to stand on your healing and just believe. And that's just what's kept me. I'm like, okay, I'll go through this process, but I know what I know.
You say, I know whose I am and I'm good.
That's right. I would piggyback off Tamisha. I think with me being in church and just standing on faith, and I just believe whatever it is, I'm going to be healed. So I try to always think positive, and nothing, I barely have any doubts. No doubts.
Well, I still have my good and bad days, and I know the doctor told me last week when I went to Martha that if I have any type of new pain anywhere or whatever, to make sure I call them and make them aware of it or whatever, because I know with triple negative it has a high rate of reoccurrence. So just try to
And I want to speak a little bit on that. I don't know if you mind me mentioning it, but when she was going through her journey, she was 27 years old, right? And you had your job and you had your insurance, and then you lost your job, right? And then, so you had Medicaid. And what did you think about, like, when you wanted to go and get treatment?
It was scary because I was working a pretty decent job, and my position got outsourced. Our company actually got outsourced. So right around in that same year is when I was diagnosed. So I had to go and get on Medicaid. So it was really scary looking for doctors that would accept Medicaid in such a time as this, where you're willing to go through and fight for your life, but at the same time you're thinking about getting another job to pay your bills, and then trying to find a doctor that can help you, with this new thing. For me, it's a new thing. So I think for all of us, it was a new thing. So it's really mind-boggling. It's really hard.
That's why I said I'm on the patient and family advocacy council at Moffitt, because I don't want people to not be able to go to Moffitt. If we feel like Moffitt is going to save our life, and we do, we should all have that option. And because she was on Medicaid, she was not able to go to Moffitt at the time. Thank God that you did find good doctors that were able to help you at the time.
Absolutely.
I did go to Moffitt first, because you think cancer, you think Moffitt.
Exactly.
Yes.
What they say.
And I went to Moffitt, and they're saying, we're sorry, we don't accept your insurance. I had Medicaid. I was turned away.
Well, today that will no longer be the case. Whether you have insurance.
That's what we're working on. That's what we're working on.
That's
what they're telling us. And so
that's anybody, and they're saying, Rep, if you ever have anybody you know that needs to be at Moffitt, please send them to Moffitt. And listen, you all, I want to hold them to it. If there's any woman out there that you find out you have breast cancer, or you need to get that mammogram and nobody will help you, please call me. That's why you have elected officials in the state of Florida. That's our job. That's our true responsibility, to make sure that no woman should ever have to go through anything by herself and not have the help that she needs. I promise you, I'm one telephone call away, and Dr. Wright knows that I will shake it up for you quick and in a hurry. You will get seen. There's no question about it. They get too much money not to see everybody. And for us, black women, we tend to not go to the doctor like we should. Ladies, don't miss that annual checkup. Please don't miss it. Don't miss your annual mammogram. Don't miss your monthly self-breast checks. It's important. And not only women, men check your breast. You might say, well, men don't get breast cancer. It was so ironic. I was on a Zoom the other night, and a young man, when I talked about I was going to be interviewing somebody, a man, he was like, I just got argued, and the lady was on there too, arguing with her that men don't get breast cancer. I say, baby, go back and rethink it. Men get breast cancer. So we have got to encourage our boyfriends, our husbands, not just to get your prostate checked, but also to get your breast examined so that you know you don't have cancer, breast cancer, because it's not male or female, it's anybody. It's not black or white, but for some reason, when we get it, it appears to be a much more aggressive form of cancer. Dr. Wright, talk a little bit about that triple negative. And the doctor and I talked about some things that he's doing, some type of tracing and some other things, trying to determine why is it so much more aggressive in black women.
And just like everything else, when as a healthcare professional in school, I learned okay, this is more aggressive in black women. This is more aggressive in black people. Breast cancer is no different. Typically, we get a more aggressive form of breast cancer, and we typically get diagnosed at a later stage.
Yeah.
That's not by accident. We are 40% more likely to die of breast cancer than our white counterpart. Those numbers have to change. Why is it that we're being diagnosed later? And what is it in us that is giving us this triple negative, unlike any other race? We need to really have more funds for research.
Well, girl, they gave $100 million last year.
Look,
every year, Moffitt will be in Tallahassee looking for a very large dollar amount, and I understand it, and I'm grateful for it, but I believe too that as black women, we've got to start taking parts in trials.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because if we don't take part in trials, then we don't get to know why something attacked black women more. But you know, if the COVID did nothing else, it taught us
Yes, it is.
that we're underserved in every,
It did.
whether it's in healthcare, housing, jobs, insurance, everything. COVID showed us that we have COVID when the rest of the world just have a cold or the flu. Honestly, we died at a much higher rate
Yeah.
than anybody else during COVID. But ladies and gentlemen, we must, even if you don't have insurance, many of you all may not know that Tampa Family Healthcare, right there on the corner of 22nd and Osborne, Mr. Cole, who just passed away, about 10 days shy of his 100th birthday, fought to bring that clinic to your community. I can go to any doctor I want to, but I go to the clinic. And you know why? Because I want to know, how do you treat everybody?
Right.
I didn't walk in and say, oh, well, by the way, I'm representative. No, I went in and said, I'm Dianne Hart, and I want to come to this clinic. So I know that there's money available to the clinic, that they can see any one of us, anybody in our community, whether you have insurance or not. So we have no excuses why we don't go to the doctor. And we need not always go to the emergency room. We need to find ourselves some doctors and go to them. So here we are at the well.
Yes. We're at the well, and that's why we brought the well to the community as well, just for more access. We're right here in East Tampa.
That's right.
And we're able to, we're going to have doctors here, and we're going to have a one-stop shop where you can come and get your, see your doctor, get your prescription. And with Fight Right Foundation, we're going to look for some funding so that we can do things like fund mammograms and have these kind of health fairs that from people that look like us, who's been through, because people see me and they're like, oh my gosh, like, you don't look like you have cancer. What does cancer
what do you look like? What does cancer look like?
What does
That's
cancer
what I
look
asked. What
like?
does it look like? Yes.
None of us know what it looks like. These ladies know what it feels like.
Yes.
They know what it is to endure it and go through it, all of the treatments and all. So were you working when you got diagnosed? Yeah, because you just got diagnosed a year ago.
I worked the whole time. All through my chemo, I worked.
How about you? Did you work your entire time, or were you too sick to go to work?
I was too sick. Once I got my treatment, I didn't have any energy probably till like the 5th day after my treatment. So I was out for like I would say like a year and a half.
And you had a job at the time?
I did.
And
I
they
was
gave
able-
you the time off?
Yes, they did.
That's
Until
great.
long-term disability.
That's
Yes.
right. Tanisha, you had it 18 years ago. You didn't have a job. You lost your job because they went away. How did you? Well, did you get a job during your treatment phase, or you just couldn't?
It was too, the chemotherapy was too much for me. And I would go, like my treatment was every Monday. So I go Monday, I feel okay. By Wednesday, I start going down. Couldn't get off the sofa and all the other things that come along with that. So no, I wasn't able to work for quite a while.
And so me, of course, being a business owner or owning multiple businesses, I just had a great team that I relied on to keep my things going. And so I encourage entrepreneurship when we can. Ownership had allowed me or given me grace to be able to keep my lifestyle the way it was while going through treating cancer and staying alive.
So did you stay home a great deal?
I did. I
As
stayed
opposed to-
home. That was the first time. And then being a serial entrepreneur, it was hard for me at first. But then I was like, oh, this feels kind of good. Like, I could get used to
I think for a bit. Wow. So I can only imagine.
Yeah.
You know what you ladies have gone through. I cannot say I know because I don't. And for all of you all out there though who have gone through, you need to connect with the Fight Right Foundation.
Yeah.
This is an organization to pull all of our women together. And I know that it's not based on color, and I want to make sure I say that. It's not about just being black, but we typically don't have the necessary resources to have an organization like this. So it's important that we have somewhere for our black women to be able to go. Most other ethnic groups, they have the supports that they need in place already.
Yeah, and so we're of course a brand new organization. When I was diagnosed in 2021, 2022, which was last year, I formed the organization. Of course, we are yet to have a lot of resources because the resources are allocated to the larger organizations. But together, we can do some things and we can help so many people. I love having our events. The last one of the events we had in June. We had a young lady there and she got dressed up and she called me and she was not going to miss that event. That was the last thing she was able to do before going into the hospital and succumbing to her breast cancer. We have to do these things to feel celebrated. We have to be able to dress up and look good and feel like just everything and be honored, because this is an honor to be here. And I want people to enjoy life without a diagnosis. You don't have to have breast cancer to say, I'm going to live every day of my life to its fullest, because we never know what's going to happen.
And you are absolutely so true. And I tell my kids that every day. They're like, you're going to go and you just have to, Bonnie, when I got here, she's like, you just run around, because I want you all to know I'm 68. I'll be 69 in June, and I live every single day like it's my very last one, because tomorrow is not promised. And when you lose a child who's 43 years old, you really understand, did I expect my baby to be dead from a massive heart attack? Absolutely not. But it made me, and I'd always told them though, we live all of our days like it's our last. Don't take that china and put it in the cabinet and nobody eat out of it. Take it down and use it every day. You know what I'm saying? Don't use that silverware just on Christmas. Let's eat off of it anytime. Take the plastic off the sofa and let's use it. There should not be a room in the house that nobody's allowed to go in. Because look at these ladies. They could not have been here. But they are here to be celebrated. And I know they're living their lives to the fullest every single day. Well, I want to thank you ladies for joining us this evening. Listen, this show, we're going to talk about a lot of topics as we go forth. The month of October was Breast Cancer Awareness Month. But for me, I believe that breast cancer awareness, we're going to have to hit it every single month.
Yes.
12 months out of the year.
Yes.
We must take one show every single month. And it's got to be talking about breast cancer. Because unless we talk about it, nobody's coming into our neighborhoods to discuss it.
Yes.
So it's up to us
Yes.
to talk about our health and our healthcare needs. And not just our breast cancer, ovarian cancer, all of the various things that attack us more. High blood pressure, that's a silent killer that's killing our people in our community every single day. But nobody's talking about it, so we've got to be the people talking about it. But moving forward, ladies, every single month, I am honored to have you all. Let's sit down. Let's have a conversation about what's going on in your lives, what your children doing. We can talk about nothing, but we're going to always remind our women that they must take care of their health. You must, ladies, take care of your health. You want to be here for your children. I got a call a few days ago. A mother passed away. She had 2 children, an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old. Her babies did not know that she was that sick. She was at home when she passed away, but they had no idea that she was that sick. My niece died from cancer, and she never told her children. Her oldest was 14. She would say, I'm going out of town. When she went over to Moffitt for her chemo, and I stayed with her, she would have to take an aggressive chemo, and it'd be like 2 days. She'd have to stay in the hospital to get it. So I would go every time, and we would never tell anybody where she was. So we've got to get out of the notion that we don't want to share. By sharing, we're showing that we care and that we can help somebody else. And that's what we've got to do. So thank you all so much for watching the opening statement. I look forward to seeing you all next week. And I don't know yet what my topic is going to be. I'm supposed to talk about HOPE. That's an organization for women coming home from prison. And Miss Linda Walker should be my guest for next week to just kind of talk about that journey and what it's like to be incarcerated and then to come back home to face the real journey, how life has changed out here. And you know what? I could talk about, or maybe on our next show when we talk about breast cancer, I'll tell you all a little bit what it's like in our prisons for women who have breast cancer.
I have to
And
go
how we
there
dealt-
with you.
Right.
I have to go up there
Yes,
with
you
you.
do have to go with me. I visited more than 56 prisons. We only have 2 women prisons, and my question to them is, are all of our women getting that mammogram once a year? Because just a year ago, we had a lady who had breast cancer, and she was almost dead because she was in stage 4, and her family reached out, and I was able to get her over to a hospital. And I mean, she is still with us, but she's still very sick, you know. But they say, yes, Rep, of course we're doing that, but I know better. So thank you all for watching this show. We look forward to seeing you next week on the opening statement.